My dad yelled at me and said I wasn't important anymore. He didn't want me in our house ever again. My fiancé John backed him up. I left home crying right after finishing high school. My name's Amy. Now I'm 36 years old and work as a farmer. It's been 18 years since I left home. I've spent more time living my own life than I did with my family, and that makes me feel emotional. We used to live in a city. My dad worked in an office and my mom stayed at home. We were a family of 4, including my older brother. My parents always favored my brother because he was the firstborn. He got better food and fancier presents. He'd brag about it and make me feel small. Sometimes I felt really lonely and wished for attention, but my parents never changed, so I stopped trying. The big change in my life happened during the summer of my second year in high school. My brother was busy studying for a tough college entrance exam, hoping to get into a really good university. His practice test scores were bad, so he was always stressed out and took it out on me whenever he could. My parents treated him like he was fragile, being super careful with him, while I got stuck with all the household chores that left me no time to study. Even though I was doing better in school than my brother, they wanted to bring my grades down to make him feel better. It didn't make any sense. Around that time, one of my teachers told me about a program where students could go experience life on a farm for a few days. We'd stay with a family who owned a farm, help with harvesting vegetables, cook together, and just live like country folks for a bit. Despite my family troubles, I decided to join the program. But my dad said, farming is only for people who can't get better jobs, and my mom laughed at me saying, "Are you crazy? You want to do manual labor and get all dirty?" But I didn't listen to them and used my own money to sign up. It was the first time I stood up to my parents, and it turned out to be a great decision. For me, who really wanted love from my family, it was an amazing experience. Working outside in the fresh air of the countryside felt so good, and I finally felt the warmth of a real family. The oldest son in that family, John, was just a year older than me, the same age as my brother. But John was nothing like my brother. He was kind but strong, got along well with his parents, and treated me nicely too. John's parents were really gentle, and even though I was only there for 3 days, I cried a lot when it was time to leave. John's mom cried too, and she said, "You can come back any time." I promised I would. They said they didn't use their phones much, so I started writing them letters regularly. Before long, John started writing back more often, and it turned into like a diary we shared, and we started dating. It was a pure long-distance relationship without even a single kiss. After my brother didn't get into his first choice university and ended up in a lower-ranked college, it was my turn to apply for college. But my parents wanted me to get a job instead of going to college. They said it was because girls didn't need education, but really, I think they didn't want me to go to a better college than my brother. Since my time on the farm, I dreamed of being a farmer. I could have become one without going to college, but John was in college, so I decided to go too and study a new kind of farming. Even though my parents and brother tried to stop me, I worked hard every day towards my goal. But when I passed the entrance exam for university, my dad got really angry and said, "Are you a girl trying to go to a better college than your brother?" My mom said, "We don't have money to spend on you. Your brother needs it, so you should work and bring money home." My parents' hurtful words left me feeling alone and sad, and after a big fight, I decided to cut ties with him completely. John came to get me from home, and his parents, who were now my in-laws, helped pay for my college. I ended up going to college, and 4 years later, I married John. I didn't speak to my parents or brother during college, but when my in-laws said, we should at least tell them about the wedding, we went to my childhood home for the first time in 4 years. It was summer, after graduation, and a busy time for planting, so we couldn't visit earlier. We all had tanned faces from working outside, but my parents and brother made fun of us. My mom asked, "How old are you now? You must be poor to work outside and get so dark." I felt so embarrassed. "Please stop, Mom," I said quietly, but she didn't listen. My brother smirked and said, "Smart people like me make money with our brains. If you're stuck doing manual labor, it means you're not very smart." I felt sick, and my in-laws' smiles disappeared. My husband spoke up, saying, "We're proud to be farmers, and we work hard." My dad laughed in a mean way and told me, "From now on, you're a stranger to us. You're marrying a farmer who works hard for a living. We're going to pretend you don't exist. Don't come to us for money. We don't want to see you anymore." At 18, I already felt like I didn't belong. so his words didn't surprise me. But it still hurt, especially with my in-laws and John looking at me with sympathy. I cried quietly on the way home, deciding to forget about my family. Time passed quickly, and 18 years went by. The hurt started to fade. I had 2 kids and a busy but happy life. I almost forgot about my parents and brother until a cousin told me my brother was getting married. We were close, and we kept in touch even after I got married. I once sent them rice from our farm, and they liked it, so we stayed in touch and talked on the phone once a month. My cousin mentioned we could catch up at the wedding, my cousin said. But I hadn't heard anything about the wedding from my parents or brother. Well, since we're not talking, I wouldn't know. I heard they're building a new house. I wonder if it's done. It seemed both my parents and brother planned to move after the wedding. My cousin knew about the problems between my parents and me, but they probably assumed I'd still show up at important family events. After the call with my cousin, I impulsively called my mom's cell phone. But all I got was a message saying, "This number is no longer in use." I tried calling my father next, but got the same automated message again. Did they change their numbers? I didn't have my brother's number, so I couldn't call him. With shaky hands, I dialed the landline for our family home, and someone picked up. "Hello." It was my brother. "It's Amy. I heard you're getting married and moving." I started to congratulate him, but he interrupted me. "You don't need to do anything. You, a farmer, a stranger to me, don't call me," he yelled before hanging up. I tried calling him back, but I was already blocked. It was so harsh. No matter how much he disliked me, we were still family. It hurt to be rejected like that. Seeing how upset I was, my husband asked gently, "What's wrong? What happened?" I couldn't hold back my tears as I told him about the conversation. Both my husband and my in-laws were furious, as if it had happened to them. "Your home is here, Amy, your family to us." My mother-in-law comforted me. Her words brought tears to my eyes. I wish she was my real mom. She cared about me more than my own mother did. My father-in-law also reassured me, saying, "You're happy now. That's what matters. Don't let it hurt you. The one who stays positive wins." My husband added, "Let's learn from their mistakes and make sure we're different." Even our kids, unaware of the situation, hugged me tightly. "Thank you, everyone," I said, feeling the warmth in my heart. I realized how happy I was even without the support of my biological family. But things changed dramatically when my business was featured on national TV. My in-laws were big grain farmers in the American Midwest. They grew lots of fruits and veggies, but some didn't meet standards. I studied food business in college and figured out how to sell the produce that wasn't perfect. I started an online business selling jams, juices, and pickles made from those fruits and veggies. With support from the local farmers union, my business became a hit. Moms loved our safe, homegrown food, and seniors enjoyed the homemade pickles. I hired young women who, like me, married into farming families and unemployed young people. The business grew to $5 million. Our success story got covered on TV. After the TV show aired, we were bombarded with calls from all sorts of people. We got orders, questions, offers for deals, and requests for interviews. Both the company phone and my personal cell phone wouldn't stop ringing. So when I got a call from an unknown number, I answered without thinking. To my surprise, it was my brother. I figured he must have seen the TV feature and heard about my success. But without much of a hello, he said, "I'm thinking of starting a business. Can you lend me some money?" "Excuse me?" "Absolutely not," I replied firmly, feeling even more resolute. I coldly rejected his request and hung up. But he called again. "Stop arguing and give me the money. If a woman like you can start a business and make money, I'm sure I can do it too," he shouted relentlessly. "That's not how someone asking for a loan should act," I responded, baffled by his confidence. It was ironic because he was the one who had called me a stranger, just a simple farmer. Ignoring his request, I asked something that had been bothering me. By the way, who decided not to tell me about the move? Obviously it was me, my wife. She's a city girl, you know. The moment I mentioned you, she suggested we cut ties. So that was the reason. I didn't want to hear more, so I hung up and blocked his number. It seemed like my brother's wife, whom I'd never met, had a similar attitude to my brother and parents. Realizing that my brother had seen me on TV probably meant my parents had too. A few hours later, I received another call from an unknown number, but it turned out to be my father. Why are you in charge? Did you take a man's job? He demanded. I replied, well, both John and my father-in-law are deeply involved in the farming business, so it's only natural. In fact, large-scale consolidation has become advantageous for somewhat larger farms. My father-in-law is the president of the local agricultural association, and John has incorporated his share as an in-law and is now the president of that corporation. Perhaps my explanation convinced him because then he asked, why haven't you been in touch? Feeling stunned, I replied, you're the one who disarmed me. I'm ending this conversation now. And I hung up and blocked his number. A few minutes later, my mother called. Why won't you lend money to your brother? You're making $500 million a year, aren't you? Send money home. We're your real family. Have you forgotten all we've done for you, raising you up? Give us at least $300 million or at least $250 million. My mother was the most aggressive of all. Even though the business earns $500 million, that's the total revenue after paying for expenses and employee salaries. I barely have anything left over. I exaggerated a bit, and my mother instantly shot back, you're lying. That can't be true. Feeling increasingly frustrated, I couldn't believe my mother's persistent demands for money. I wondered if she had any shame. I'm not going to send you any money, whether I have it or not. We're strangers, I told her firmly before hanging up and blocking her number. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was mistaken. My parents, my brother, and his wife, whom I'd never met before, suddenly showed up uninvited at my in-laws' house. Hey, Amy, guess what? I'm taking back the disarmament, my father announced. I was shocked at their desperation for money. My mother-in-law couldn't believe what was happening. Even my father-in-law and her were clearly uncomfortable, glaring at my parents in silence. The employees around us had gathered, looking shocked at my parents. My brother seemed to realize he wasn't welcome either. We're the real family, connected by blood. We deserve a share of your earnings too, he insisted. The woman with him, presumably his wife, nodded along in agreement. I was livid. No, that's not how it works. Even though we share blood, there's been no emotional connection. You treated me like a stranger and abandoned me, I said, feeling the old wounds of being rejected by my biological family reopening. Tears threatened to spill again. Just then, John came and stood by my side. Amy is part of our family now. Even if you haven't disowned her, we're perfectly happy without you. Please leave, he said firmly, defending me. The employees joined in, criticizing my parents together. We're with Amy. How dare you, they exclaimed in unison. As I thought, this is my true family, I felt a deep sense of happiness. But my brother's anger was growing. Shut up, you country bumpkins. You're all uneducated trash. Aren't you supposed to obey us quietly? He raged. But John calmly responded, actually, both my father and I are Ivy League graduates, and Amy graduated from a prestigious agricultural university, revealing our educational background. What? With degrees from top universities, why are you farming? My brother exclaimed in disbelief. Maybe for my brother, graduating from a lower-ranked university was his only source of pride, and he likely didn't anticipate being outmatched in terms of education, I mused. John remained composed as he stated, farming is an honorable profession. We can apply what we've learned in college to it. I couldn't contain my laughter at the absurdity of it all. Brother, you've been bested by John in every way. I chuckled, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Realizing I had been too fearful of my brother and parents, I spoke up firmly. Let me make this clear one last time. We are strangers now. Pausing briefly, I adopted a polite tone. Therefore, I cannot lend or give money to strangers. Please leave. If you cause trouble or act violently, I will call the police and take legal action. I asserted our separation unequivocally. My in-laws and husband moved closer to me, ready to shield me from any harm my parents and brother might try to inflict. I was deeply touched, feeling genuinely cared for. The employees also joined in, shouting at my parents, "Get out of here. Go home." My parents, brother, and sister-in-law left with resentment in their eyes, unable to argue further and only able to retreat. Later I heard from my cousin that my brother and parents tried to get rich quickly by starting a business with borrowed money instead of asking me. But their arrogance led to a major failure. Now they're on the brink of bankruptcy, but I've cut ties with them, and I have no intention of getting involved anymore. As for me, my work is thriving, and I'm surrounded by my true family, supportive in-laws, a loving husband, and wonderful children. I'll cherish each day, enjoying the happiness of life.